What would you like to master? What skills would you like to develop? Being able to focus, but what to concentrate on? If you're not sure, it could bring out some real restlessness. Watch for overly perfectionist tendencies and being self critical in a negative way, organizing people and things, and moodiness. These are all pressures, qualities, and questions that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for May 26th until June 1st, 2026 bring. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Human Design Weather Not podcast with me, Margo Fraser. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm thinking about shifting the format for this a little bit. So if you have any comments on that, please feel free to let me know. You can put it in the comments section. I may be thinking about taking the summary part from after the long-term transits and moving that up a little earlier so that those who want that, but not all the details behind it, can get easier access to it. All right. Well, we've had 4 cycles in a row of individual gate activations in the Sun and Earth positions. This cycle, the Sun and Earth are both going to move into gates of logic. So a real shift there. Logic is experimental. It's about repeating and practicing and refining to try to perfect and find the best pattern, the best formula or method to carry you and all of humanity into the future safely and reliably. If I do A, B, and C, I'm consistently and reliably going to get a certain outcome. As part of the collective circuitry, it's about impersonal sharing of these patterns and formula. And after 4 cycles of individual trait activations with the pressure to be here, now, in the present, there will be a general pressure this cycle to look to the future, to plan for the future, and ask yourself what you can do to create a more secure future. This cycle begins on May 26th at 6:11 p.m., going until June 1st at 2:58 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal time coordinates, it's starting May 27th at 12:11 a.m., going until June 1st at 8:58 p.m. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun Earth activations as that 70% of the conditioning field. The Sun has moved into gate 16, the trait of skills and enthusiasm in the throat center. With this trait, you want to translate that word enthusiasm into talent or skills here. Its keynote says, the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. This isn't mental, it's energy to fulfill the potential of skill through attention, focus, and concentration. The throat center isn't a motor, and neither is the splenic center that this gate is pointing to. So there's always the search for energy to put into developing your skills and talents through that repetition and refinement. It can be pretty frustrating when you want to develop your skills if the energy isn't there to do so. The 16th gate is very important as a primary gate of identification. Now, there's a difference here between the identification necessary in gate 16 versus the identity of the self in the G center. Here, skill can only be developed through repetition towards mastery, and you're not going to stick with it if you're not identified with what you're doing. With this trait, that identification is built into its mechanics. So think about artists or athletes who describe themselves as being one with their art or one with their music or their sport, whatever that skill is. Yes, there can be natural gifts that you have, but to reach your full potential of talent and skill, there's a long-term commitment to practicing. And enthusiasm for it's going to help you stick with it. That talent and skill could equally apply to running experiments in a laboratory type setting, trying to find, again, that formula that works for the majority in the collective. This is a trait that's going to bring pressure to focus and concentrate on developing your skills and talents. The logical process requires daydreaming as well. This isn't the daydreaming of a new experience that you want to have, like in the abstract circuitry. Here, it's daydreaming about all the things that you could do with your skill and all the potential things that could impact the experiment and the developmental process so that they can be accounted for as much as possible. If you're a basketball player, you have to daydream about all different ways to get the ball to the basket and how to deal with all the different kinds of interferences that could happen along the way so that you can develop your skills to overcome each of those. If you're a researcher, you need to daydream about all the different things that could impact your experiment. For example, does it work for different age groups, different ethnic groups, different genders, and so on? Whatever is needed around that experiment. There's a lot of planning and conceptualizing to be done so that when the energy is there, the next level of development can be manifested. There can be an ego inflation here of saying that, oh, I have the skills, but is that really true? Maybe you've developed them, maybe not. Just the pressure in the throat center could have that being blurted out. This is the voice of I experiment or I don't experiment. Now, in everyday life, it's more likely to come out as I'm practicing whatever it is, or I need to practice this or that, whether it's spoken or you just see someone repeating something over and over again. The earth has moved into gate 9, the trait of focus, also called the taming power of the small. It's in the sacral center, that motor that generates life force energy. Its keynote says potential can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects. In this taming power of the small, the ability to tame is the ability to master the nature of detail. This trait will bring the mastery of the energy for detail, which is necessary in going through all the experimental process, all that practice and repetition. You have to have attention to detail in order to perfect the pattern. Now, this is in the sacral center, so it means a focusing of the body's energy, which is different than mental focus. However, if you have detail work to do, this trait can be very helpful. This is in the sacral center, which is here to respond to life. So the focus to organize the details is going to come out of response to a need for it. Because logic wants to perfect the pattern, there's been this really unhelpful projection into it that mistakes are bad and then trying to cover up errors. But mistakes are just part of the correction and refinement process. And not only can understanding what didn't work be helpful, but sometimes mistakes lead to new discoveries. If you have detail work that you've been putting off, well, this could be a good cycle for you, especially when we look at the overall what's happening this cycle, because there's even more that's going to support that. For the 30% of you that have your sacral center undefined, you're a projector, reflector, or manifester. If it does get defined through this cycle, there could be for you an amplification of not knowing when enough is enough when it comes to details. There could be frustration if all the details aren't in place. And there could also be, again, that restlessness if you don't have the electromagnetic gate 52, which is the genetics trait of inaction and keeping still on the other side of the channel. That's really the other key ingredient to concentration. We're going to have the 52 in the field when this cycle starts, but it's only there for about 20 minutes. And then Venus is going to be moving on. So yeah, unless you have it in your own design, it's not going to be there. So again, that restlessness could play out. When we look at these two traits together, it may bring focusing on your skills. But this is the homogenized pressure. Should you really be using your energy that way? If you're not following your strategy and authority, you could end up chasing skills that actually aren't aligned and putting energy, time, and resources into that. We could also see restlessness and frustration at not having the ability to concentrate or the energy to practice and develop skills and talents. And we'll likely hear more talk about the need for skill development, whether at the personal or collective level. Okay, let's look at our channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. So it has a big impact in that way. We have a medium-term channel that's in place. It came in on May 23rd and is going to be with us until June 12th. With Neptune sitting in gate 17, the trait of opinions in the Ajna Center, our mental awareness center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 62, the trait of detail in the throat center being activated by Jupiter. So we just talked about the Earth being in the trait of focus, that's also detail oriented. And here we also have the throat gate of details being activated. Together, Neptune and Jupiter here are creating the logical channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being. It's part of the mental logic circuitry that's about finding those patterns to carry us into the future, as we talked about. And this is where the mental acceptance of the logical process is. It's the channel where the theories, the opinions of Gate 17 go through a process to get all the facts and details in place and organized to substantiate those opinions and then be able to articulate them in a way that others can understand. Or not. It's activating the Ajna and throat centers for everyone in the world that doesn't have this in their design. So it's going to bring a busy mind, especially for those of you that have the Ajna center undefined in your chart. It's going to be supportive if you need to do any organizational tasks or need to get into the details and organize your facts for something maybe that you have to present to others. Gate 62 is also very good for naming things. So if you have a project or something that you've got to get a name for or come up with a name for, this could be a really good time for doing that. However, whenever we're looking at a channel that ends in the throat, there can also be a blurting out. And here, blurting out your theories and opinions or hearing that from others without being invited to do so. And if you haven't gone through the full process of getting all the details and facts organized, you could be challenged and called out for that. As well, people may be overwhelmed by all the detail or irritated that you're telling them all this stuff and they didn't ask for it and then end up just tuning you out. And you could also be on the other side where someone's spewing all these facts and details and their opinions at you that you didn't ask for. What's going to make this more difficult is that Neptune carries this veiling energy. So really getting a handle on the opinions and the theories is going to be more difficult. And then Jupiter's expanding all the details. So it could have you chasing a level of detail that's actually unnecessary. The Ajna gates carry anxiety, and once again, it's the anxiety here of being challenged. This could result then in holding back on expressing your opinions, or you may notice people making up so-called facts to justify their opinions. We've got two short-term channels. The first is a carryover from last cycle. It's going to end on May 28th at 3:04 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time or 9:04 a.m. UTC. We have Mercury sitting in gate 45, the trait of the gatherer in the throat center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 21, the trait of the hunter, the huntress, and control in the ego center, the heart center. That's the motor that provides willpower, and it's being activated by Saturn. Together, they create the channel of the money line, a design of a materialist. This is a tribal leadership channel where energy is exchanged for matter and resources and back again. Like all tribal traits, it has an underlying theme of mutual support, having support or not. This is a channel that's focused on resources and what you can control or not. So you may find more pressure to manage your resources while this is present. The voice of gate 45 is I have, or I don't have. I need or I don't need. So it's a channel where we're going to hear the voices of the haves and the have nots, especially with Mercury activating that gate 45 in the throat center. This full channel can bring out a real do it yourself type pressure. So if you have this channel in your design, really it's optimal if you work for yourself. I've got this in my design, or at least be autonomous if you're working with a corporation. Go in as a consultant, for example, not as an actual employee. You don't want to have any bosses over you or to be micromanaged typically with this channel. However, you do need to learn to delegate. Now, if you are not aware, this pressure to do it yourself could have you leave a job and go out on your own when it's really not the correct timing for that. If it is the right time, well, then it could be very helpful to have this present. Also, be careful about buying things you can't afford out of the ego pressure towards materialism rather than what you really need. It's a good time to go window shopping if you don't have the financial resources. And with that gate 21, especially if you don't have that trait in your own design, there could be a tendency to be really over controlling. Our other short-term channel comes in about 19 minutes after the start of this cycle. So it's coming in on May 26th at 6:30 p.m., going until the 31st at 12:31 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in on the 27th at 12:30 a.m., going until the 31st at 6:31 p.m. We have Venus moving into gate 39, the trait of the provocateur in the root center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 55, the trait of spirit and abundance in the emotional center. That one's being activated by the north node of the moon. Together, they're creating the channel of emoting, a design of moodiness. It's going to bring the pressure to find your spirit, your passion, and to gain an awareness of who and what really fills your cup, so to speak, and who or what doesn't. And you want this to be in a general sense because this is an individual channel. It can be very fickle. It has high highs and low lows in its emotionality. And so there's usually not a single person who can always bring you up or fill your cup. But as long as that's generally the patterns, that can be very helpful. There's an acceptance that's called for here of moving through the highs and lows of emotions. With this channel, people try to fix themselves to the high end, right? I always want to be in the up, but you have to allow the down. This is a very mutative channel. And that mutative capacity can't really brought out if you don't allow for and even find beauty or at least acceptance in the highs and lows. Now, emotionally, it is pretty even, this channel, but then when triggered, it can spike way up or spike down. It's also very acoustic. And at the same time, it can filter out anything that's not relevant to you in the moment. That's part of individuality. So you could miss what someone's saying to you. And that's something else you may have to accept. If someone says, I already told you that. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Well, maybe you didn't hear them. Maybe you're not hearing each other because this is going to be activated for everyone. So it could bring out some miscommunications. This is individual, so it can pulse into melancholy, the melancholy that you can't find your spirit or there's nothing or no one to be passionate about. If that occurs, listening to music that you're in the mood for can be very helpful and just trying to channel it into your creative endeavors. All right, we've got 4 channels that are being created by transits of the moon. Although they don't have a big impact on the homogenizing field individually, depending on your own design, you may feel their impact. The first came in at the end of last cycle, and it's going to go until May 27th at 12:41 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 6:41 a.m. UTC. The moon is in gate 57, the trait of intuitive insights in the splenic center, connecting with its electromagnetic gate 20, the trait of the now in the throat center. Together, they create the channel of the brainwave, a design of awareness. This is another individual channel where intuitive insights that come through in a pulse of acoustic knowing through that gate 57 have access now to the throat to be expressed through that gate 20. So this is the expression of I know now. Our next channel is coming in on May 27th at 11:44 a.m. going until 10:50 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, that's coming in May 27th at 5:44 p.m. going until the 28th at 4:50 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 50, the trait of tribal values and laws in the splenic center. It's connecting with gate 27, the trait of caring in the sacral center being activated by Mars. Together, they create the channel of preservation, a design of custodianship. This is part of the tribal defense circuitry, and here it's about looking after our offspring and helping them to become self-sufficient. It can, though, extend to caring for other things, other beings like animals, could be the environment, caring for projects, caring for a business, and so on. It brings the pressure to determine what values and nurturing are needed to allow thriving. Here, the sacral center is being connected directly to the splenic center. So it also brings a theme of working on your health and well-being. Our next moon channel is coming in May 30th at 7 a.m. going until 6:20 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in on the 30th at 1 p.m. going until the 31st at 12:20 a.m. We have the moon moving into gate 34, the trait of power in the sacral center. It's connecting with gate 20, the trait of the now in the throat center. Together, they create the channel of charisma, a design where thoughts must become deeds. Now, we just had this as our Sun Earth positions last cycle, and I went into a lot of detail about it there. It's about being self-empowered as a unique individual to survive and being self-absorbed in what you love to do. It brings a busy energy with that sacral vital work energy having direct access to the throat. Without the awareness from gate 57, though, it can bring being busy to be busy. And you could end up putting energy into something that's not really of value to you. Our last moon transit channel comes in May 31st at 5:41 a.m., going until 5:02 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in May 31st at 11:41 a.m., going until 11:02 p.m. We have the moon moving into gate 5, the trait of fixed rhythms in the sacral center. It's connecting with Mercury's position, gate 15, the trait of extremes and love of humanity. Together, they create the channel of rhythm, a design of being in the flow. This is another logic channel. It's very magnetic and can empower love of humanity. It's also a universal channel, as gates 5 and 15 are part of the design of all life forms down to the design of a cell. So very impactful. It's about being in your flow, and therefore can bring this kind of my way or the highway feel. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind can start to think they're part of you, even when it's something that you don't have in your own design. And then when that transit moves on, that can be rather confusing to the mind. We have the nodes and 3 outer planets changing this cycle. So quite a bit going on here. Starting with the nodes in the transit field, they're what brings the homogenized perspective and direction that we'll see in the world. This is the context that the transit field is bringing. We have the North Node sitting in gate 55, the individual trait of abundance and spirit in the emotional center. We saw that in one of our channels. While the South Node is in gate 59, the tribal trait of sexuality in the sacral center. The 55 brings a context that's about individual spirit. It brings a moody, glass half full, glass half empty perspective, as well as the potential for passion and romance, or their polarities. As I mentioned with the channel, gate 55 has the highest highs and the lowest lows of all gates. So we're likely to see more emotional volatility in the world while this is present. Gate 59 is part of the channel of mating, and it's going to bring a context where one-on-one relationships and bonding with others is really highlighted, whether that's at the level of an intimate relationship, a friendship, or a business partnership. It could also bring an environment where fertility issues are more present. The nodes start the cycle in line 5. For gate 55 in the emotional center, line 5 is called growth. With this fifth line of universalization, we're going to see that people will put up with the moodiness and fickleness of those in positions of power because they need something from that person. Maybe that person is the one that gives them their paycheck, for example. That gives the person in power actually the freedom for the mutative capacity inherent in this individual trait to be expressed to support innovation. However, in the detriment, we'll see people accepting all sorts of advice in an effort to harmonize with others as a way to get to the power. But without having authority, they end up using so much energy on the socialization and then being conditioned by the advice they're given that there's no energy left and no ability to be mutative. We can't separate ourselves from the environment. So without awareness, we could get pulled into this dynamic. For gate 59, the trait of sexuality, line 5 is called the femme fatale or Casanova. Remember, the fifth line is seductive and gets projected on and universalizes. In the exaltation, this is an environment where there's seduction going on, seducing and getting seduced to break down barriers to union or partnership at whatever level that is. It's the power of sexuality to seduce others, but there's no negative connotation here. In the detriment, this is where we see sexual power used for material gain. If you're looking for an intimate partner or any kind of partnership, just bring awareness that there is this seductiveness in the field and make sure you're giving it time to see if it's really correct. On May 30th at 1:49 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, the nodes are going to move into line 4, the social line of networking and the opportunist. Fourth lines also have a quality of being fixed. For gate 55 in the emotional center, line 4 is called assimilation. So this is all about looking for those people that fill your cup and being very fixed in that. It's also, of course, individual. Who fills your cup is going to be very personal to you according to your own principles and framework. Those that fill your cup can help to open your spirit to expansion and prosperity. With awareness, you can recognize that this is emotional. You have to allow for the down and the sadness, and no one can bring you up every single time. The fourth line carries the emotional wave of kindness to meanness. So if you ignore this awareness, you're going to meet the meanness. So this is an environment where we'll see whose cup is full and whose is not. We'll see the kindness and the meanness. We'll see those without awareness abandoning their own principles to align with those they think will bring them prosperity and likely end up crashing. All right, gate 59 in line 4 is called brotherhood, sisterhood. This is really about being friends first. It's not about sexual intimacy first. It's getting to know someone before you enter into some kind of partnership with them, again, at whatever level that is. This is finding those confidants or not. So as an environment, it's one where there are people seeking friendships and confidants on one hand, but also there could be the exposing of secrets and information considered confidential by those who feel they've been wronged or violated. Moving to the outer planets now, Jupiter's in gate 62, the logical trait of details in the throat center. It's the voice of I think or I don't think. It's starting the cycle in line 3 called discovery. And this is really a very aligned expression of the trial and error process that can be tough, as there's lots of mistakes that are going to be made in the process. But if you take time to learn from them and go into the discovery, you can really refine your theories and methods, and in the detail could find something really valuable. that then allows you to come up with innovative applications. However, in the detriment, there can be a dissatisfaction with detail work and boredom such that the valuable information is missed. On May 29th at 1:13 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Jupiter is going to move into line 4 called asceticism. This is where there's pressure to withdraw so you can get all the details sorted and organized for expression when the right opportunity arises, to allow you to really explain your opinions and your theories backed up by all those facts and details. However, it can also bring out this expressing details and facts to try and impress rather than so others can really understand. Saturn sitting in gate 21, the tribal trait of the hunter, the huntress, and control in the ego center. It's going to start the cycle in line 3 called powerlessness. It has a developmental theme that says where the just are condemned to a futile confrontation with superior forces. Gate 21 is really best working for itself as your own boss, and that's especially true in the third line. If this gets activated in your chart, there's going to be a tendency to be very irritated by anyone that you work for, and where you're not fully in control of your own material life. It can bring a sense of not wanting to work if you have a boss above you. And Saturn's quality of constraints could amp this up. So just be careful with this, that you don't do something you'll regret later out of this pressure. I talked about this with the channel at the beginning, the channel of a materialist, the money line. Watch that this pressure doesn't have you leave a job thinking, I need to be my own boss now, when that's not actually correct for you. On June 1st at 1:26 p.m., a little before the end of this cycle, Saturn's going to move into line 4 called strategy. And I'll get into the details of that next cycle. Uranus is in gate 20, the trait of the now and contemplation in the throat center. This is the voice of I am now. It's going to start the cycle in line 2 called the dogmatist. Line 2s are selective, so it brings an innate awareness in the now that's restrictive and narrow. And it's the line of the hermit, so withdrawal here is natural. Now, this trait can be very good within specialty areas where you're meant to go down a narrow path. And you can also lead others that want to develop within that specialty area down that narrow path as well. With Uranus, it could bring a very unusual or revolutionary path. On May 30th, Uranus is going to move into line 3 called self-awareness. It has a developmental theme as well that says understanding derived from analysis of personal actions and effects. So this is about being aware of oneself in the now, witnessing yourself in the now and how you are in the world. There's a real self-consciousness here. From that, there can be great wisdom in the trial and error process. Or there can be a lack of being able to even function in the world out of extreme self-consciousness if you can't accept what you see in the now. Uranus could bring some revolutionary self-discovery here, or it could sidetrack you, particularly if you're unable to come to terms with accepting what you see. Neptune's in gate 17, the logical trait of opinions in the Ajna center. This is the gate of the right eye that sees patterns in the now. It's really taking in all sorts of patterns to determine what might work best, and then forming theories and opinions from that. It's sitting in line 1 called openness. It brings being open to many patterns and having many opinions, or like an art critic, only having opinions when it comes to a certain area of interest that you enjoy. The thing here is that Neptune's going to make it tough to grasp the patterns and the opinions with its veiling impact. Pluto sitting in gate 41, the collective abstract trait of contraction and decrease in the root center. This is the fuel and the pressure to start a new feeling experience. And it starts with fantasizing about all the experiences that you'd like to have. Now, it's sitting in line 4 called correction, and it has a developmental theme that says successful adaptation to limitation. The 4th line inherently knows that the potential to fulfill on the experience, on getting the feeling, lies in getting its energy up to the next gate and through the full stream up to the 35 in the throat center. In its exaltation, this fourth line brings the energy for adaptation that's going to be needed to get through the experience. In the detriment, this is where the collective nature dominates. You invite others into the experience that want to go through something similar, but then you have to compromise and you might not go through the experience in the same way as if you had done it yourself. That could bring some frustration in the end if you don't really get the feeling that you were hoping to get. Okay, looking overall now, logic is really dominating this cycle with the sun, the earth, that channel of acceptance, the design of an organizational being all in logical gates. So there's going to be that pressure of planning for the future, focusing vital energy, and organizing to develop skills and talents. Anxiety about the future is likely to be amplified here as well, and anxiety about being challenged around your theories, around your skills. In the first couple of days of this cycle, while the money line is present, there may be more pressure there to organize your resources, and attunement to patterns may support that gathering of resources or not. And with the channel of emoting present for most of the cycle, it's going to bring a quality of developing skills in areas where you personally have a passion and in an environment that's moody and volatile, whether up or down. It also means that adrenalized and motorized root pressure is active for everyone, as well as the emotional center. With the busy logical mind, there could be emotional triggering based on opinions that are expressed. In the second half of the cycle, there's going to be a lot of social energy with the nodes in line 4, as well as Jupiter and Pluto, and the Sun Earth will be moving through the externalizing 4th, 5th, and 6th lines. We also have a strong fantasizing kind of quality in the field that could bring some new ways of thinking about things or getting lost in fantasy, getting lost in the imagination. We have the imagination aspect of logic needed to think through patterns and what could work or not, along with the fantasizing of Gate 41 about what experience one wants to have. Because there's a strong planning influence, there could be some interesting new strategies that are developed. It also popped in my mind that this could be a really great cycle for video game developers with the fantasy aspect and the strategy kind of all wrapped up there together. Anyways, just keep in mind that this is the homogenizing field. Remember, for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's actually something for you to do with it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let this homogenizing transit field run you. All right. Well, if you have to focus on something, especially to develop a skill or a talent, if you've got to do some planning or organizing, this cycle could be very supportive. On the other hand, watch for putting extra pressure on yourself to perfect and try not to make any mistakes. Logic is always critical in its nature, but sometimes that can shift to really negative self-criticism. So watch for that. Expect there to be moodiness in the air. But there may also be an opportunity for you to engage in something that you're passionate about, or finding people that generally fill your cup and expand your spirit. All right, well, have a great cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.